Hey players, all throughout my life, I've always been known as a squeaky clean kid, someone that doesn't really get in trouble or do anything wrong, but that's not exactly true. In fact, there have been several things that I've done over the years that I'm not exactly proud of, which is why I want to share a bunch of those stories with you, so you don't go on thinking, wow, Josh has never done anything wrong in his life, because you'd be surprised.
This is the Josh Speaks. You're watching the Josh Speaks.
Let's go back to elementary school. Me and my friends used to play a game called Asses Up, which basically you have a ball and you throw it against the wall. Once the ball bounces, someone catches it, and the person who threw it has to run to the wall before being tagged by the person who caught it. If the ball hits you before you get to the wall, you get a letter, and the first person to get asses up loses. At times, the ball would go all the way back to the end of the schoolyard, and when people yelled reach, you had to throw it from where you were. So I went really far back to get the ball, and when they yelled reach, I noticed I was standing right behind the vice principal. Her back was facing me, but I thought it would be funny to try to throw the ball over her head. I mean, what could go wrong? So I picked up the ball, wound up, and threw it as hard as I can right at the back of her head. I'm surprised the ball didn't explode upon collision, but she turned around so angry at me. And of course, I didn't know what to do, so I just ran away thinking, well, if she can't catch me, I can't get in trouble. I did get in trouble, she did develop a lump, but nothing really happened from that experience. And that time wasn't as bad as the time that one of my friends ripped her pants. We were running around in the schoolyard when one of my female friends ran and just ripped her pants. The entire backside was just open and her underwear was exposed for everyone to see. And when this happened, I didn't run and tell a teacher, I didn't go over to console her. Instead, me and a bunch of the other guys ran around her in a circle, pointing fingers and laughing while she cried. I felt like a vulture circling its prey. She just sat there on the floor in her underwear while the rest of us just laughed. And that wasn't a cool thing to do to a girl, but that pales in comparison to what I said to another girl. At the time, I shared the class with the school troublemaker. This was the kid who would talk back to the teacher, wouldn't do homework, and would make fun of other students. There was a girl in my class that was developing a little bit faster than all the other girls, so this kid proceeded to tell all the other guys that she was a slut, she was a whore, and she was sleeping around with guys. I was in the 5th grade, so I didn't really know all the details of the words that he was saying, but I knew that they were offensive to say to someone. So, as a joke, I went up to the girl and said, hey, this kid's saying you're a slut, you're a whore, and you're sleeping around with guys. Is it true? And as soon as the words escaped my mouth, I knew I should not have said that. Of course, she got super pissed at me, but she didn't say anything to me. Instead, she went up to the teacher after class and told her what happened. Whew, I had to work my way out of that mouthful of trouble, and the annoying part was that since I wasn't one of the bad kids, the teacher was even more upset because when I told her the other kid said it, she didn't really care. Double standards, man, double standards. But I was a bad kid too. When I wanted something, I took it, which is exactly what happened when I went shopping with my mom one day. We had went to the pharmacy by my house, and as we were walking through the aisles, I stopped over in the toy section and saw a little toy dinosaur that I just wanted to have. I asked my mom if we can get it, and she flat out told me no, which meant I had to find another way to get it. So I took the stuffed dinosaur and I shoved it in the pocket of my jeans jacket, and I waited around until we casually left the store. I was terrified that I was going to get caught, but what ended up happening was pretty funny. Over the year, I forgot that it was in my jacket, and the next season when I put that jacket on, I found the dinosaur and remembered what I did. I started crying to my mom, telling her, I'm a thief, I'm sorry, I stole this, I'm a bad son, and she just kind of laughed it off and said, don't do it next time. Oh, those stories aren't so bad? Let me tell you about middle school. In my middle school, or as we called it junior high school, my parents were too afraid for me to walk at that age over to the bus stop, so they paid for a private bus company to take me and several other kids that picked us up in front of our house to school. This was a shorter private bus with a lot fewer kids, so I got to know every single person on the bus, and me and one of the other boys, man, we got into some trouble. Every day when we would ride the bus home, we would yell out the windows, we'd flip people off, and we'd spit on their cars. So one day, as the bus was pulling out from the front of the school, my friend decided to moon everyone that was still waiting for their bus to come over. And I was gonna moon them too until I saw one of the guidance counselors walk over to the front of our bus, knock on the glass, and ask the bus driver to open the door. My friend never pulled his pants up so quickly. We sat there silent, not saying anything, hoping he didn't notice. But he noticed, and when he got on the bus, he shouted out, "Whose ass cheeks was that?" Literal fear ran down my face as I just pointed over to my friend to rat him out. He got in trouble for that and I didn't. But that wasn't the only incident that happened on the bus. In fact, I said something else that was really stupid to another girl. There was this one girl who was a 7th grader when I was an 8th grader, and every day she would get on the bus, sit in the very first seat, and not talk to anybody. Being an 8th grader, I felt like I had seniority on that bus, so I'd go over to her seat and I'd try to make jokes and interact with her to get her to open up. One day, as a joke, I said to her something along the lines of, "You look like one of those kids who's gonna blow up the school or something, you're so quiet." Yeah, you shouldn't joke about those things, because she told the principal and I ended up getting called into his office to tell him what happened. I told him that I was joking around, that I didn't mean anything by it, and I hoped that I wouldn't get kicked out of the school, which eventually I didn't. But I did get kicked out of the Boy Scouts for breaking lots of property. Me, my brother, and my friends in Boy Scouts were all huge wrestling fans at the time, so every Friday after our Boy Scout meeting, we'd go out to the backyard and we'd wrestle. And at first, the weapons we would use in our matches were basically anything we could find. If they were throwing out chairs or tables or even a police crossing line, we would use that. Eventually though, we got a little bit more daring, so we started going inside to take tables and chairs to use in our matches. This went on for a while until I got a letter home saying that we had broken tons of church property. They called my parents in to talk to them about what happened, and at that point I knew, that's it, we're getting kicked out of the Boy Scouts. We sat outside the church thinking, we don't need this, we don't need anyone. And then we got kicked out. So what? We broke some property, we got kicked out of the Boy Scouts. It's not like we were banned from the church like we had gotten banned from Kmart. Yes, we walked into a Kmart one day because we were bored, and my friend decided to just shove me into a rack full of items that just fell all over the ground. So of course, I had to shove him back, and from there, me and my friends proceeded to trash the entire aisle, knocking things over and throwing things at each other. There was stuff everywhere, and I guess we had caused so much of a commotion that some guy had walked over to us, kicked us out of the store, and told us we were banned. He wasn't wearing anything distinguishable, so I'm not even sure he worked there. But either way, a month later, Kmart got shut down. Look, when we got to that high school age, we liked destroying things when we were bored, which is exactly what we did when we went to one of my friend's parties. My friends and I were invited to a Halloween party, so we got all dressed up with our costumes, we headed on over there, only to discover that it was only the girl and her boyfriend. We walked inside, saw it was only them two, and then she said, "Alright guys, I'll be back," and then disappeared for most of the entire night with her boyfriend. Look, if you leave 4 teenage boys around unattended, they're bound to get into some destruction. We started off small by throwing pretzels and M&Ms at each other, but then one of my friends grabbed a 2-liter bottle of soda, shook it up, and then threw it on the ground. The cap literally shot off of the bottle as the bottle spun around, shooting soda all over her couch, her TV, and this gigantic moose head that was on the wall. Soda, pretzels, chips, M&Ms were everywhere, and when she came back down, we just said it was an accident. And while that wasn't an accident, what I did next actually was. I mean it. My friend's mom had a habit of finding little random and weird toys to give to us, so one day she gave me a rainbow bouncy ball to just play with. My friend and I headed over to the bay, tossing this ball back and forth to each other because we were bored. Then we decided to make it interesting. By the water, people usually throw things like bread to feed the pigeons, so there was a huge crowd of pigeons, hundreds of them, and inside that crowd was one white pigeon. My friend dared me to throw that magical rainbow ball up in the air to see if it would fall and hit that one white pigeon. So I threw it, and this is what happened. In a way, it was like slow motion. As the ball was falling, I saw all the pigeons disperse and fly away, except for one pigeon, the white one. And I watched in horror as the ball came slowly down and hit that one white pigeon in the head, killing it. We both stood there in awe, not knowing what to say, until I told my friend, I did it. Now what? Man, I've done a lot of stupid things growing up. But what about you? What are some of the things that you and your friends have done over the years that you look back on and kind of regret? Leave your comments below and we'll talk about it. It feels good to get those things off of my chest. Now I feel like I can move forward into the new year, not holding on to the baggage of the things that I regret doing. Hopefully you guys can do the same. As always guys, love and peace.